Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Friday at 11. I'm Penny Carson, being Mrs. C, and today we're going to be talking about Brit Mums. So let's see who we've got today. Ali, should we start with you?
Hello, I'm Ali and I'm from Bugbear2B and I am periscoping for the first time on this hangout today. I've been doing lots of periscoping for the last week and I thought I'd give it a go during our hangouts.
Oh, so multi-platform today, I think you call that. Is that the correct terminology?
Hi everybody, I'm Helen from kiddycharts.com and I'm not periscoping, I have a cat on my knee. So I don't know if that's multi-platforming, I'm not sure.
Hello, I'm Joy, I'm from Pink. I've got a minion going off every time I talk. I'm Joy from Pink Oddy and the Sensory Seeker, and I didn't actually go to Brit Mums, but I watched via Periscope, and I'm multitasking with a cup of tea.
You see, I'm triple tasking here. I've got my crochet and a mug of tea. This is how mums do it, isn't it? We have three things going on at once. So I think there's three of us who were there at Brit Mums, myself, Ali, and Helen. Should add, Helen was actually presenting one of the sessions as well. So when we come to to compliment one, we'll point out which one that was. She's just giving me a stern look now. So, first impressions though, first of all from those of you that were there. So, Ali, do you want to give us your first impressions on this year's Brit Mums?
It was a lot quieter than last year, I think. Not just at the event, I think the social media side was much quieter. Usually it trends for 2 or 3 days on Twitter. I didn't see that. I think it trended on the first day. But yeah, it was a much quieter event. It was 600 people attended. Last year it was 700. There's lots of newbies there. There's people that I was planning to meet, but there was a lot of people that we missed on not seeing there. But yeah, first impressions a lot quieter.
Okay. And Helen, what about you?
I found it a bit manic, but I was helping in one of the rooms, so that probably explains. I always find that I never have enough time to talk to the people that I want to talk to. And one of the key reasons I go for conferences, and I don't know if this is the same, I do go to learn, but now I've been blogging for about 4 or 5 years. It's also to meet some of the bloggers that I follow, and to see brands as well. But I love the social side of conferences, and I found it was good, but I did find it hard to find somewhere to sit and chat with people because there always seemed to be something going on, and there wasn't quite as much space for that kind of stuff as there was the previous year.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think this is my third Brit Mums. It did, again, feel a bit quieter. I was there for roughly when they opened the door, and I seem to recall previous years a big queue at that stage, whereas this year there was just a smaller queue and everyone was taking photos of the twirly-woos, which is all good. It was quite cute to see the twirly-woos. But, I mean, I go as well for the social side and the learning side, so there's some sessions that I've highlighted as ones that I particularly wanted to go to and to learn from. But in terms of people meeting, I met up with some close friends. I didn't get to meet everyone that I wanted to meet. There were some bloggers who I didn't even see there, but have looked afterwards they were there, and I wish I had seen them there, if you see what I mean. And I suppose that's one of the perils of such a big conference with so many people. But how did it look from the outside, Joy?
Yeah, no, well, it's quite hard to tell because it was just sort of desperately like being jealous and trying to find all you could. So, yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting that people thought I was there because I'd been tweeting quotes and things from the Periscope, so they assumed I was in a session and were trying to find me. So that was quite interesting, quite nice actually. It's like, no, I'm afraid I'm at home. So, yeah, it was interesting. I think it was easier being at home in terms of the actual sessions because I was able to eat what I wanted and drink what I wanted and didn't sort of get that fatigued, hot, there's too many people, overwhelming sense sort of thing. So that was quite good. But yeah, I think a lot of it is the social side though, so doing it at home wasn't quite the same.
But you saw a benefit from watching sessions online. Obviously, the quality of Periscope isn't fantastic. I mean, I know chatting to Ali before we came there, depending on how good your Wi-Fi signal or your mobile signal is, the quality of what you're broadcasting can vary. But did you think it was all right. It was sufficient for following what was going on in sessions and these slides and everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially the bibs, and it just felt like, you know, it wasn't as good because, again, you can hug people, but to be there at that moment when it was announced, it felt like you were there, and it was like, oh my God, and some of the people that didn't win, that were there on Periscope, finding out at the same time as everybody else. So that was...
people who did win as well, because I think Annie Spratt was watching on Periscope, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Photography one, for instance. Which was quite cool. I mean, thinking back, maybe someone should have taken a phone with Periscope up on the stage at that point and Periscope the audience and everything.
It was mentioned. It was like, go on, Ali, go up. Take Ali on the stage.
But the follow-up question to that is there merit in suggesting to BritMums that they should be doing live feeds of sessions anyway, or should we be relying on social media to do it? Or does that take away some of the proprietary information that's being shared there?
I have a point about that, actually. First point is, not everybody wants to be on camera, and I think I did upset a couple of people by just shoving it in their faces and not saying, hey, I'm going to be periscoping, do you mind if I... That was lesson number one. The guy who did the, Paul, who did the SEO session, he said, please do not periscope this session.
That was a good answer.
You paid good money to come here and hear me speak. You're giving free information to other people, which is fair enough. So I think if they are going to live stream, then the bibs, the keynotes, yes. But I do understand if they say no to the sessions.
Could they maybe do it as a paid-for thing?
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, there are a lot, and I've attended online conferences, and I really like them because you've got your pass for the 2 days, and most of them also give you access for a year afterwards or whatever it is, so you can actually go back to those sessions.
Yeah, and my parents will disappear after 24 hours. Nobody else can access them, but I've still got them on my phone. So I know I was actually there, so I can choose what I want to do with them. I can upload them to Facebook, to Twitter, or I can make them into a video for YouTube. So there is that kind of copyright infringement, if you like. And I know we're going to talk about Periscope next week as well, so I'll keep back some things. But yeah, I think live stream part of it would be a good idea.
The other thing I wondered for that, though, is there are a couple of times where there are 2 sessions running in parallel, and I would have actually liked to have gone to both sessions. But I wonder if there's scope, if all the sessions were videoed, people could either buy a pass to watch them whilst it was live, in other words, not attend the conference physically, or maybe people who had paid to attend the conference physically would also then be given the right to watch them for, say, a year afterwards, so that you can see the sessions that you haven't been able to attend.
I think I think there's more scope than to have somebody in the session who's on social media, so somebody who's got questions via Twitter or Facebook, so that they can be fed back to the person that's presenting, maybe. So there's more of interaction, so somebody could be there on Twitter, right, if you've got questions for so-and-so, so you've got that kind of aspect, because the only social media sites from those people are actually, within the session themselves asking the question. There might be somebody who wants to know something that's not at the conference, so maybe something like that.
I think the other thing, it would give them an option, because it is really big now, there are 600 people there, maybe you could have an online ticket, an online plus face-to-face ticket as well. So you might maybe reduce the number of people that go, so it's not as massive as it is, like it's not 600, it's maybe 250, but you can still buy an online ticket, so you can still get your learning from it. And maybe the social side becomes a little bit easier because there's not quite so many people there. And you've got that online capability so that you can keep going back to it as well. So even if you did attend, you can go back to a session 6 months later. So I really enjoyed that session from Paul on advanced social media. I'm going to watch it again and, get some more learning from it.
No, I like these ideas, and I'm hoping that Jen or Susanna from BritMums can either watch this live, if you are, hello, or maybe feedback to us afterwards if they have watched it. I'm hoping we can give them some constructive feedback, as well. But it's interesting hearing that other people's views echo mine a little bit. I mean, what do you think, Joy?
I think it's would be really beneficial. I know a lot of bloggers can't attend the event because of their circumstances, either especially special needs parents. You know, it's really, really hard to get away at all, never mind for that amount of time, and depending on how far people live as well. So it would be nice, it would make them feel, I think, even more community in there, you know, that they could join in, and at the moment they might feel a bit, you know, it was really hard, and I could have gone, I chose not to go because of the time of year, and it was hard not being there when so many people that you do mix with were there, and so yeah, so I think it would make it feel a lot more inclusive.
Okay, interesting.
Did you feel, oh, sorry, Penny,
Sorry?
did you feel that there was less social media chatter? Because Ali was saying that she didn't think there was. Did you? Because obviously you were listening to it. Did you feel there was less?
I don't know, because it was really hard, because I was watching Periscope, and because I do most of my things on my phone, I couldn't watch Ali's Periscope and be on Twitter at the same time. I had to actually close the Periscope down. If Periscope's listening, maybe they'd like it so that it could keep running in the background so that I could still hear it running while I'm on my Twitter. I did say, oh, I should have got my laptop out and gone on Twitter, but actually I was getting the gardening done. So and that was quite nice, because I was still getting on with stuff I needed to do and listening to the sessions. But yeah, but in terms of people talking and stuff on social media, I don't know, and because normally I'm in the thick of it, I'm just usually tweeting it and listening to the session and sharing the information rather than actually looking at what everybody else is putting. And I think a lot of it is more, where are you, and people looking for each other, or we're all going to all bar one, and that sort of thing. So I've never actually looked at it from not being there before.
Yeah.
So, you know, and there was a few things, like there was a website that I discovered that someone very kindly had tweeted out, and things like that, but there wasn't a huge amount of information sharing like that. And there was a few Instagram post pictures and stuff, but again, yeah, not as many as I expected, but then probably as much as I would have seen while I was there, but I just assumed that was because I didn't have time, because I wasn't looking as much, because I was kind of on there all day. Has anybody put anything? Has anybody put anything? So.
Okay, and the social side of things, obviously for anyone who doesn't know, the conference runs from, I think it's 2 o'clock on the Friday through until about 5 o'clock on the Saturday. However, on the Friday evening, you've got the sort of pre-Bibs party and then the Bibs Awards, but it all then finishes at 8. And I know a lot of people then did in their own social groups organise to go out for meals and things like that. I actually had to go home because of train problems and come back because I couldn't afford to stay in London. But I wondered, did people, you know, a lot of people are staying overnight. Do you think there maybe should be a bigger organised meal type thing that maybe is an optional at-cost add-on to do things, especially if you've travelled on your own and you don't know anyone, having the option to be able to pay 20 quid for a dinner where you know you'll be sat on a table of bloggers, maybe that is done by a random draw so everyone's mixed up. I don't know, it's just a idea to throw out there.
Actually, because I was in the BritMums Facebook group, and a lot of the ones that hadn't been before hadn't realised that they had to organise their own meal. They actually thought that part of the Bibs was going to have a sit-down meal.
Ah, right, okay.
Considering how much, you know, that it could have been catered for, I think, in some kind of way, because the big hall was quite empty for quite a lot of the conference. Apart from the keynotes and the Bibs, it wasn't used a lot. I know a couple of sessions from there, but it seemed to be underused.
About having a conference dinner, which maybe incorporates Bibs. I mean, as I say, I'm just kind of throwing some ideas around.
No, it's what everybody presumed, and it's something that I would, you know, 20 quid to have a meal together. Much nicer than having to try and find something. I know a lot of people will organise something beforehand, but it wouldn't be nice to be mingling with other people. And on the Saturday night, I actually stayed, and I travelled back on the Sunday. we ended up in All Bar One, and I was with people I don't usually mix with, but it was really nice because I met people that I known online, even though I was talking to them for about 4 hours before I realised who they were.
Hello, if you're watching.
No, it was Charlie from Podcast.
Oh.
She knew who I was and was sat with me for about 3 hours in All Bar One, and then we decided, Monica from Mum on the Brink and Charlie said, right, we're going back to, they were at the Mont Clam, and I was chatting to a lady called Mum Turned Mom. She moved from Scotland to Boston and Massachusetts. So she was absolutely, I loved her. Brilliant. Couldn't stop talking about her. I had so many questions. Well, she's a vegetarian, and she was talking about how hard it is to be a vegetarian in America, and we were talking about hangouts and all this kind of, anyway, there's lots of things got going on with her. Anyway, we went back to the Mont Clam, and I sat there, and Charlie was talking to me, and I think she knows who I am, but I don't know who you are. And then she said, Charlie, and I said, oh my God, you're Podcast, aren't you? She goes, you mean you only just realised who I am? And I said, yeah. So we gave a hug, and I was like, oh my God. She sat there, she goes, I can't believe you don't know who I am. Like this. So, yeah. There was quite a few elements of that, because people sat, I even had somebody sat there in the middle of the conversation. Obviously, I knew who she was, and we were chatting around. She said, I'm sorry, I've got to ask this, but who exactly are you, like this? And I said, don't worry, nobody knows me because I don't blog that much, but I'm Ali Hodge. And somebody said, oh, Ali Hodge, like this. So, yeah, so there is a lot of that. So you see people in avatars, and they look completely, because I had 6 inches of my hair cut off. So, you know, this time last week, it was the week before, it was all the way down here, and I suddenly had it all cut off. So I don't look like I do in my avatar. So there was a lot of that. And there's lots of people that you know from Facebook, but see them in the flesh is sort of like, I'm not going to go and talk to them. Not because it's just like, oh no, I don't know. What do you say?
It is hard. I think sometimes you almost feel like you know so much about someone. It was like the first time I met my 2 mums. I kind of felt like I was a bit of a celebrity stalker, if you know what I mean, because I knew so much about them from reading their blog and watching all the videos that I was a bit like, oh, what do I say?
Because I went
to them, but they don't know me.
Yeah, I went and spoke to Kirsty about doing hangouts, and I was stumbling my words, say to her, kind of thing. But yeah, there is a lot of that. It's quite weird.
Okay, so on to the sessions themselves. Which sessions did people go to? What did you enjoy? What did you enjoy most from afar, Joy, as well?
YouTube. I was like that. I didn't know who was taking the session or anything, right? And I just turned it on, and I just recognised his voice, and I was like, oh my God, nobody told me Marco was going to be there. I like follow him on YouTube, and he's going on about, oh yeah, you can like find out all these help things and that, and I was like, yeah, that's how I found you. And I don't know if you've seen it. There was the thing about how I know about the yes vote about everyone being allowed to get married in Ireland was because of a video he did and everything, and it was just like, oh my God. So yeah, that was
I didn't go to that session, but I have seen that. Was it Liska from New Mum Online? She's done a video on YouTube on the YouTube session, so I have flagged that to watch it actually.
Yeah, I periscoped it. I don't know what the quality was like.
You dropped her. It was like, no.
Yeah, there was
session or
sorry?
Was it a good session, the YouTube one? Is it worth me going and finding?
Yeah, there was lots of things that I didn't know before. It didn't go too much into technical stuff, finding it, but it sort of like gave me an idea of what we should be doing a little bit extra. Okay. But yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, I'm yet to find something that's absolutely comprehensive on, you know, going through bit by bit on how to use YouTube. It's all like everybody's got their own sort of like, and there's a lot of things that I guess would come naturally if you're using YouTube. Like you sort of like don't think about if they're a complete beginner. But I think he took it that we're already using YouTube and we knew lots of things.
All right.
I still find it useful.
All right, and Helen, what about you?
Well, I was obviously looking after a room, so I couldn't really go very far. So basically, I watched the sessions that were in the room that I was doing. But I actually really enjoyed the design sessions from Capture by Lucy. She was fabulous. And
no one last year, and it was amazing.
yeah, and I've never made a mood board before, and I made a mood board for my blog, and I was like, oh God, this is so fab. I probably spend my life wasting my time now making mood boards. But I actually learned so much as well, because I'm not really a particularly designy type. I'm much more technical, and it was so nice to actually, you know, be a bit more creative.
Okay.
It was fabulous, and she was so helpful as well, and had lots of wonderful ideas. And I also loved the social media session from Paul, the advanced social media session that I went to.
I didn't get on with that session as well, actually. I was sat right at the back and found it a little bit hard to hear them.
Oh dear.
He wasn't using the microphone, and there was unfortunately an upset baby for a little bit of it.
Yeah, there was, wasn't there?
Yeah, it didn't help matters. But it just didn't. I was going through my notes this morning that I took whilst at the conference, and I suppose I have actually got quite a few notes of different things I want to look at from his session. But at the time, I kind of came away. I didn't come away thinking, yes, I've learned how to do X, Y, and Z. I kind of instead came away with, oh, I've got lots of things I want to look at now, but I'm not really sure where they'll go, if that makes sense.
And I guess the thing that I took away from that was a couple of the resources. There was a video resource that I can't remember off the top of my head now. It's completely gone. And I really wanted to look at that. And I hope I've written it down, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to... Sorry?
I've written it down, so ping me if you haven't got it.
Okay, cool. And it was stuff. It wasn't necessarily the kind of session where, as you say, I felt that I learned a lot. It was more about discovery, I think,
okay,
in terms of, you know, what I got from it.
And also adding on to that session, or complementing it really, was the session that Maggie, whose surname completely escapes me, for Red Ted Art, and Ali Clifford did about social
Maggie Woodley.
Or Maggie Woodley, thank you. I don't know why I went blank on that. And I found their session really, really good from a more of an inspirational point of view, because that was two bloggers that you could relate to that were sat at the front of the room. And I mean, the room for that session was absolutely packed. I was sat on the floor with Ali right at the front because there was nowhere else for us to sit. But that was a brilliant session, I thought.
That was on optimization, wasn't it? Was that on optimization?
It was kind of I can't remember what the official title was, but it was like doing everything across all social media platforms, and how to do everything without having to do everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I watched that one, and I think the biggest thing was just to be, their advice was be on every social media platform, even if you've just gone and got the name and park it, and you'll get a following just because you're on other platforms, basically, and it stops other people getting it and pretending to be you.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think it was the usefulness of knowing that on some platforms, if you're not actively pushing it, just use a feed from another platform to feed it. So Maggie was saying that she's not doing much on Twitter at the moment, but she will push what she puts on, I think it was Facebook, directly onto Twitter, and that just happens. So it's very much a passive thing. If someone interacts with her, she will go and interact back with them, but she's not putting extra energy into Twitter because at the moment, for her, she doesn't see the benefit of it.
Yeah, that's a bit like with me, my Facebook. The only regular thing that goes on there is my Instagram feed. And I get interaction with that. And actually, like I mentioned in the session itself, I mentioned that I hate Facebook, and I think most majority of people know that I actually threatened to leave and delete my page because it wasn't getting any interaction, and the only interaction I was getting is from those other articles I was sharing for other bloggers. I don't have that much time to blog. So I don't have that lot of content, so it's like, what is the point? And I had people come back to, no, don't delete it, we like your page, no, still please stay, and all this and that. And I actually, the 3 days that I put out this scheduled post saying I was going, I had the most interaction. And I sort of like, okay, fair enough, I won't go, what do you want? And I had one person said a mix of articles, nice photos, a bit, what about your life? Doesn't have to be a blog post, just interesting stuff. And then I had another person say, I don't want other people's articles, I don't want other people's, I want you. Which is, right, okay, so if I just do my stuff, that means twice a month you'll get a blog, you'll get a post on Facebook, which you can't. You need traction on Facebook.
Yeah,
Do you think they mean that though? Do you think they mean a blog post? Because I use mine as if it was my Facebook account, in that if I see something I think my friends would like or I'd like to share with people, I share it. And I put things about me, you know, like I could put, you know, just normal stuff you put on a normal status. Oh, I'm going to the school now. You know, I wouldn't put that.
No, she was more about sharing articles from other people just to gain traction and to make sure you're seen. She said she unfollowed loads of people just doing it to gain Facebook, and they wouldn't see a lot of blog posts. She said, I followed your Facebook page so I can get notified of when you write a new blog post. So I'm like kind of torn now, but I think I'm going to stick to what I was doing before, and I'm actually I'm saving lots of links from my Facebook profile to share on my Facebook page, to share on there instead of my profile for a while to see how that goes. But I've also got to try and think that, you know, my blog is supposed to be a nature blog, so I've got to find more stuff that's nature-based, that's interesting, to share with people and see how that goes. I don't know. I don't think there's any sort of like final answer on Facebook. Some people get it and do it well, and others like me just.
Yeah. Okay. Before we run out of time, then the last bit to talk about really is the brands that were at BritMums. So for a lot of people, talking to brands is quite a big part of their BritMums experience. So who did you talk to? Who did you like talking to? And what sort of thing did you miss, maybe? So Helen.
Unfortunately, I had very little time to talk to the brands. Of course, I managed to speak to Boots, Super Savvy Me, and Carnival, and it was lovely to chat to them. But I did apply for the Carnival cruise thing, which I think has to be by the end of today. But I did feel there were less brands there, and maybe I'm just imagining things. It did feel like there was less people to talk to. And also, this was an anecdotal thing, so it didn't happen to me, but one of the bloggers that I spoke to went to one of the brands and said, so what do you do with bloggers? And they said, we don't really work with bloggers. And it's like, what are you doing here then? It seemed decidedly bizarre. And I found that a little bit odd. It wasn't one of the brands that I spoke to, it was one of the other ones that were there, and I can't remember which one it was now, but it did seem to be just a bit light as compared to other years, that's all.
Okay. Ali?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. There was a lot less brands to talk to. I did love the sewing lounge, the craft lounge. I picked up lots of lovely wool and hopefully get to work with coats. And the ladies who were there from Lady So and So were very helpful. I didn't learn to knit. I just did lots of crochet, and I actually did a blanket while I was there. I'm just trying to think. I don't think there's probably about a handful, 4 or 5 brands that I'll actually think of working with. I actually haven't had a proper look through my bag, but yeah, there wasn't that. Paragon, definitely been working with Paragon. Worked with them a couple of years ago with their books, so hopefully they get in contact to do their lifestyle books, that's cooking and all that kind of thing, as opposed to kids stuff, because my kids got enough books as it is. Would like to do more stuff about me. I think that's yeah, Paragon, the sewing. We don't have passports and I don't drive, so there wasn't any point me talking to any of the holiday reps. There was the taste people, the Mexican Santa Maria. So yeah, maybe them. But yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, I don't think there was anybody else really that was worth me sort of like pursuing.
I have to admit, my favourites were the craft people, and I set myself a challenge whilst there to see how much crochet I could do. So that was the finished granny square. So I did all of that whilst at the conference, actually. Started it when I arrived on the Friday, and that's where I got to when I left at the end. So I was quite pleased with that. I also went and made a little hair clip as well whilst I was there. And there was actually a huge amount of social media interaction with the things that I'd made when I was sharing those, especially on Instagram. I had loads of people both at the conference and not at the conference who were talking about those. So I love, Lady So-and-so and also Coates. I thought they were both absolutely brilliant. The other brands, there wasn't really anyone I spent much time talking to. I mean, I worked with Paragon already. So while it was nice to sort of touch base with them in the flesh, because I exchanged a lot of emails with them, that wasn't a new one to me.
They were really nice, weren't they?
The lovely Paragon team, very, very lovely. But there were less brands there overall, I thought. And whilst I loved the craft lounge, I realised it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. And we should also give a mention to the 3 girls who were singing in there, who were absolutely amazing. They were fantastic. They really, really were. I miss the Super Savvy Me people, because when I went along in the last tea break, they're like, oh, we're packing up now. I was like, oh, okay then. So that was at the beginning of the last tea break, which was a bit of a disappointment, really, because I don't know why they were packing up then, because I think
there were still people around.
There were other people who, again, were approaching as I was and going, so who are you? And they're like, oh, we're packing up.
I think my main thing was that I think there was too many celeb keynotes. I think I would like to see 2 go and have either longer sessions, because a lot of the sessions were actually overrun, so it means the next one was cut short, and to have a bit longer socialising. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, I think there wasn't much love for the keynotes this year. That wasn't just me, that's lots of people saying that.
Well, the thing that came across actually mainly on Twitter was the fact that there was a lot of branding, and the whole, this push towards bloggers are brands now and are wanting to work with brands, and there's still a lot of people sort of going, we don't want to work with brands, and feeling it was too brand focused. Do you feel with the lesser brands that it still felt very brand focused?
Yes, in the sense that you had quite long tea breaks. So you got coffee breaks that were an hour long, and if you weren't interested in working with a brand or you weren't into crafting, I don't know what you'd do in those sessions, especially if you'd gone there not knowing many people. I think that would have been quite hard. And, and like your lunch was served in the room where all the brands were as well. So, yeah, and I think the first year I went, I wasn't working with brands as much then. And I think I came back then with the impression, oh, it's very brand focused. So I could see how someone who isn't working with brands would feel that way.
Yeah, there wasn't much focus on writing in the session.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that what I've got from a lot of people that have chatted to me is that there were less writing-related sessions. So I don't know whether it was the fact that there was a lot of brands there, or more to do with a lot of the sessions were focused on, social media or SEO or whatever it was, and there was less focus on the writing side of, sort of inspirational writing or telling stories or whatever it was. Because I remember last year there was a very good stream, the Write stream, which was really good for people that were looking at blogging as whether it was an outlet or whether it was as a stepping stone towards writing a book, or just because they loved writing. And I think there was potentially more sessions that worked better for that last year than there were this year, and I think a lot of people have told me that.
Do you feel that there might be a move? I'm not suggesting that writing and blogging is going to stop, but there is more of a move towards video and images and Instagram and YouTube, and therefore you can see why BritMums have sort of made that shift to fit in with where the future is and where we're going.
I think there's so many people blogging nowadays that actually all different forms are still valid and still got big audiences and large numbers of people doing them. So I suppose video is new, but that's not meaning that you haven't got new people coming to write.
No. I mean,
I think that's the difficulty with the conference is you've only got from 2 o'clock on Friday till 5 o'clock, and you've also got to get those keynotes in, and you've got to get the sort of the Brilliance in Blogging Awards, and you've also got to get the bloggers reading out their own blog posts, because that's a very important part of the conference, and that doesn't leave a huge amount of time. They have 4 sessions running at the same time sometimes. To cater for all of the different ways that we blog, and every way is just as equally valid. It's just trying to fit all of those into a 1.5 day conference.
Yeah, it's certainly not an easy thing. I'm glad I haven't got the job of trying to schedule what you put in and what you miss out, because I'm guessing it's quite a difficult decision at times.
I think, though, because, I mean, all of us are quite advanced in our blogging. For me, I rarely blog. I do lots of social media, but what I have come away from going to BritMums is the fact that I ought to be concentrating more on my blog, that I need a base for people to know, because everybody knew me as Ali Hodge, but nobody knew me, what my blog was or what I blogged about or anything like that, but they knew me as Ali Hodge and doing Periscope, and I was doing Hangouts. So I think I need to go back to basics and have more of a base in blogging, as well as doing all the other things that we're all doing now. But yeah, that's what I sort of like. I'm actually going to take a bit of a break from some of the social media that I usually do, so I can concentrate on being blogging and to go into more of the other new bits that we're doing.
Okay, so if that's what you took away from it, Ali, Helen, what did you take away? One thing.
Actually, funnily enough, it was very similar to Ali. It was focus, and a lot of the problems that I have around blogging are because I am trying to do too much, too quickly, all at the same time. And it's trying to focus on the things that were important to me about, my blogging life. And it's to work out what they are, which is actually quite difficult to start with, and I'm not sure I've got there yet, and it's still a week after the conference. And B, then to try and sort out that blogging life to make sure that I can actually keep those things going.
Yeah, I think similar, and taking the inspiration from Maggie and Ali's session, I'm planning to look at what tools I can use to help me. What about you, Joy, looking at it from outside?
Yeah, it was interesting that things that seem so obvious when you hear them that you just hadn't done. For example, that particular social media session, having good descriptions on your Pinterest boards. And because I'd started again with Pinterest for the Sensory Speaker, and I went back and I looked and I was like, oh yeah, there's no, because I'd made them for me. And it was just like, because this whole account was about sensory processing, the other boards had no mention of it. So I just went back and did that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that's then going to make such a huge difference. But so yeah, so that was interesting. But yeah, again, I think the whole trying not to be doing my Pinterest, my Instagram, and my YouTube, and just feeling like I'm failing at everything. I need to just stop and go, right, this is what I'm going to concentrate on. I'm going to improve this, and when that's doing okay, then move on to the next one.
Yeah, focus. All right, well, super. Thank you, everyone, for today, and thank you for those of you who watched as well. That was our BritMums. I'm sure yours might have been quite different, so let us know what you think in the comments down below. And next week we'll be back talking all about Periscope as well. And if you want to catch up on this will also be on Ali's Periscope feed, is that the right terminology, for the next 24 hours as well. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.